Okay, we have two poets today. Our first poet is Lara Gularte. She lives and writes in the Sierra foothills of California. She is the poet laureate for El Dorado County for 2021 to 2023. Her book of poetry, Kissing the Bee, was published by Bitter Oleander Press in 2018, and I have a link to that in the chat. Her forthcoming book, Fourth World Women, published by Finishing Line Press, will be available in January of 2023. Lara has been nominated for several Pushcart Prizes. Gularte has been published in national and international journals and anthologies. Her poetry depicting her Azorian heritage is included in the Gavia Brown Book of Portuguese American Poetry and in Writers of Portuguese Diaspora in the United States and Canada. She is affiliated with the Kagaro Colloquium of Azorian Diaspora Writers at the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, located at California State University in Fresno. In 2017, Gularte traveled to Cuba with a delegation of American poets and presented her poetry at the Festival Internacional de Poesia de La Habana. She's a proud member of the esteemed Escritores del Nuevo Sol. Gularte is a creative writing instructor for arts in corrections at the Mule Creek Prison. So I feel a bit of a connection to her, given that my parents also are from Azorian heritage, from the islands of Terceira. And also, I've spent 15 years working for the Department of Corrections, not at Mule Creek Prison, but have several friends who work there. So we want to welcome Lara and take it over, Lara.
Course, the place at the beginning, Flores Island. A wail rises up in her mind, turning her thoughts gray. In port, the ferry of return, she searches for her grandfather to discover the shape of his immigration and finds the planks gone, rotted. At the mercy of rough water and high winds he rode, sinews pulling his dory, pulling his bones to breaking. She scans the distance, says his name out loud, Antonio Enriquez, waits to hear a voice, see a face. She searches for all the prisoners of thick mists, others who look like her, whose foreign tongues speak music to her soul. Beyond the wake of a rogue wave, currents and tides ride on the back of a gray whale. She sees through the vapor boats whose nets gather the sky and let go. Fog falls, bearing day's souls back to their home place. She falls with them. I'm going to California now, and I'm going to my great grandmother, who was a mail order bride during the gold rush. And this is from not Flores Island, but Pico Island, another island. And it's my maternal family side. California bride, bones half grown, she rises from a ship's dark hold, gives herself up to a hard-handed miner, grows thin from miscarriage, fat from pregnancy, sings songs in Portuguese as she hurries from cabin to sluice box on small, calloused feet. I remember the old woman, not the girl, a widow in black with thick stockings, heavy shoes, lived in the corner of my grandmother's kitchen, gluing broken dishes. Always moving and praying, boiled her own egg till the day she died. The face of Maria Neves, I wear her eyes, speak in her voice. She is waving her hands, reshaping the air to tell me in broken English that life is no sugar. So I have a lot of grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-greats and so forth. So I'm going to read you another grandmother, another grandmother poem. And this is called Bound. I found a ship bound for the old country so I could travel back to a past I never lived, to the life of my great grandmother, the woman who started my story. I twisted her ring on my finger and made a wish. At the altar, I kneeled for prayer and host, asked for the body and blood, asked for the resurrection of her body. I wanted her whole again so we could find our way back together. Crocheted into the night, my Basavo talked to me in my language that she couldn't understand. She told me she wanted to go home. A ghost ship docked. It sat silent in the black water and waited for us to board. Her body merged with mine. We returned. The island she remembered was dressed in crags and calderas. She said to me in broken English that when the lava stopped boiling, fish came to the shore and begged to be caught. Her hand filled with sky, breakers flowered on the beach. Stones showed their frowning faces. She helped me understand the waves, close and far, showed me how to pass through air, through water, enter salt. So I'm going back to California again. And my parents met at a chamarita, and that's a Portuguese folk dance. I see Rick nodding his head. Have you ever gone to one yourself, Rick?
Been there, done that, but because I couldn't understand what they were saying, I was constantly going the wrong way.
Well, this is where my parents met, at a chamarita, which is a Portuguese folk dance. The port, dark and sweet, the swirling light of dance, his loose and damp collar, her gray skirts unfolding, wrists and hands, the need to touch. The room rises and falls with their hastening breath. Spring clutches the plum blossoms. The girl leaves her family for the marriage bed. Behind pulled curtains, he watches her undress, her body edged in darkness. They breathe in the night fragrance of spruce and pine, wild lupin. Through half-shut eyes, she is calm and does not speak. Under his hands, her heart, like a bird's muffled flutter. Skin hums and slender thighs press close. Shadows walk above their heads. They rustle and toss till light seeps through the window. Still they linger on the paling sheets, halfway familiar, halfway strange. So everybody might have a relative like this, but I doubt it. This is a true story. It's amazing that it's a true story, but it is. Uncle Ernie tries to shoot me a pet bird. On my 5th birthday, he's a cowboy. The birds are the Indians. Short and beefy with a beard, he wears his Stetson to look taller. He fires his shotgun and sound scatters the air. Sparrows and finches flap from branches, twigs snap. I scurry to find a live one, my fingers sticky with blood and feathers. Uncle Ernie tells me to look for a linnet. They make good pets when they're not dead. By the time the sun is over our heads, birds decorate the ground. Uncle Ernie says he will find me a lizard instead. Says birds are no good anyway. They eat the fruit off trees. I want a bird, not a lizard. After mixes cherry Kool-Aid with whiskey. We watch hummingbirds spin and whirl till meat bees chase us indoors. The next day, Uncle Ernie buys me a parakeet. Let's see what I have in here. And then here's the rancher's wife. In Northern California, my family lived on ranches, worked hard. She raises the shades to dark trees and glowing fields of wheat and hay. She opens windows to the fragrance of honeysuckle, the sharp smell of manure. Through the kitchen pane, she watches as his calloused hands lift bales of hay into air. She opens the screen door and puts her hands in his. She pulls him inside. She undresses for him, rolls her nylons down around her ankles, removes her heart-shaped lace and girdle, shows him her olive thighs. She rubs oil in his cracked palms, removes splinters, then waits for whatever his hands will give her. All night they turn and toss under a yellow lamp. At 6 a.m., she's calm and slow, lighting the wood stove, measuring the pour of milk, the breakfast ready to serve him. I'm getting a little bit steamy here. This is a poem that somebody I know really liked. It's called Mrs. Madruga Prepares Her Granddaughter for Hard Times. Mrs. Madruga warns her granddaughter about the blurry sun, heavy and hungry, the scarred vegetables, the ragged turnips, and how the garden understands the natural cycle, the quiet of slaughter. She shows her granddaughter where to place the snares, to listen for the shuff of breath, how to get tender meat by relaxing the animal, stroking it from breastbone to pelvis till it slumps in her arms. She teaches her granddaughter how to kill, fast, painless, with the edge of an open hand, striking a blow to the bones, linking back to head, the snapped neck. She guides the chore of pulling out the shivering insides, the tug of soft pelt, quick cuts, each joint giving way under the knife, her blood-soaked hands cleansed by lemon. All the cooking in one pot, herbs and water, onion tears, green pepper, bones bumping bones, the wild taste of meat changing to something sweet. I think I'm going to go back to the Azores in the book. Right. No, actually, I'm going to read you a poem from Lisbon when I was in Lisbon. And it's called The White City. Above 7 hills, the sole star shines, casts away shadow. Wind carries time around, and past raises up dust. When white Frisia leans against stained glass, the fadista sweeps heat down the boulevards. A glow seizes albascent patinas as specters buff the domed church, and ethers rise up with fish eyes. The Tagus River brings home the lost ones through rack and conch, messages of salt. On the Avenida de Liberdade, people call out to Santo Antonio, discover lost things. Find the Madonna down a quiet alley. She stands on a gate, uses aquamarines to cut the air, then hymns the sky with gold thread. Now I'm going to read you another poem. It'll be my last on a grandmother, okay? This was my great, great, great grandmother, Maria Francesca de Cabral, at the village of Santa Barbara, island of Pico. My fingernails scraped lava stones, loosened dust, looking for the other world. I found a fissure in the earth that led to where the sea tossed its wet creatures, their lungs exhaling. The ocean spread dark and cold beneath the night, reached with every wave for drops of light shed by the moon. Musty air and the ghost rattle through banana leaves. You rose up, bones of family architecture, luminous. A woman without soil, you carved roots from stones of the island. Into the Azorian Sea you dove, the splash of your body, and I jumped, scattering stars to pull toward you. Where ocean and sky met, you vanished. Your memory, the afterlife dissolving all that salt, seeped back into the sea, an ocean mist without end. I held my breath, heard the heartbeat of waves, felt the ocean of my blood. My body took pleasure in forgetting gravity, the need for breathing on my own. I asked God to throw me a line. Floating to the shore, I felt the pull of the universe slow everything down as heaven pulled the earth into my arms. Okay, I'm going to read two more poems. And this one is called, this is back to California, Saving Myself. My ancestors are stones in the river. They sparkle, their quartz veins glisten in granite. I wade carefully, feeling with bare feet, smooth skin stones. A muskrat swims by me, slick-backed fur shining. Braced against current and slippery bank, I lose my step. I fall into the cold stream. A water sprite travels 1,000 years to swim through my bones. Minnows scatter, I drink the river. Deer breathe hard in the shadows. In the pines, a spotted owl chants, and an old scaly fish beats up from the bottom, then sinks back down again. I rise from the current, find shallow water, sit among the stones. In a mountain pool where a trout darts, I bless my reflection. This is my last poem. It's called What Matters in the Morning. When light fills my window and overflows the sun across my bed, I watch the mountains move closer, coming home with the daylight. A monarch flutters into the garden, rests on a hollyhock, peacefully opens its wings. I see something shimmer between the corn rows. It's my father in old shoes and coveralls, hoeing, tracking weeds along snail roads, standing up straight, head bent and focused on the endless furrows of his 86 years. The sun shines greenly on his hands as he listens to roots inch deeper into earth, watches baby spiders hatch, flex their legs. When he sees me at the window, I hold my hand up to wave. He holds his. We are palm to palm. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. So much powerful imagery in there of connection to soil, to water, to blood and genetics. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. So everyone, you can unmute yourself, and anybody would like to comment, share.
Lara, I had a question. Was that near Santa Barbara area you were talking about?
Me, the last poem, the poems I read, I'm sorry, I should have been more specific. Northern California, near the Oregon border, the Siskiyou Mountains. That was the area.
Good poems.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
It was just so wonderful hearing you read. And I have your book, Kissing of the Bee, which I really, really enjoy so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you, Allegra.
And I put a link
I
to
enjoyed your poetry, Laura. That was lovely. I'm
Thank-
finding out that I have Portuguese ancestry and you're drawing me to want to go there.
Ah, good.
Fabulous.
Laura, my favorite line was, "I bless my reflection." Beautiful.
You know, I liked a lot of the imagery. I think one of my favorites was climbing out of the folds of the sea. You know, that's interesting. The folds of the sea. I mean, that's just an interesting way to put it.
Thank you.
I looked up your the other book that you referenced in your bio, the Book of Portuguese American Poetry. That's out of print, apparently, at least per Amazon. So I hope any chance that that's going to come back.
What was the name of it?
The Gazette
Brown.
book.
Oh, okay. That's from a specific publisher, and I will find out about that.
Okay, great.
I don't think they're not on Amazon though.
They had it listed, but it just said that it was out of print.
Lara, am I on mute or are you hearing me?
I hear you.
Oh, good. Well, I just wanted to express my thrill and joy in hearing you read this. And while I can't claim any Portuguese blood, I do have a great feeling of affiliation going back through the years with the various Portuguese people that I've met and come in contact with. I think first of all in Hayward, when my dear neighbors would entertain their friends from Dakota who would come with a live chicken for a gift, and the tender-hearted friend could never bear to slaughter the chicken for his dinner. And they would bring some kind of nice brandy, that Portuguese brandy. Can you tell me the name of it?
Port.
No, that's a wine. This was something stronger, and that they would sip on while they played cards with my friend.
No.
So anyway, it doesn't matter. And then when I was teaching, I had a boy fresh from Portugal whose mother would come to, but anyway, he liked to stay after school and do some extra things. And he was just a dear. And I met his mother, who didn't speak English yet. But so that was a connection. And then, you know, I've known some people like Rick who are from, and then I have my daughter-in-law who's Brazilian Portuguese. So all of these things make connections. And I had another student who went to the Azores And the picture in back makes me wonder if it is a picture from the islands, or is it from Portugal?
The one and I have a background of?
Yes.
It's an island from the Azores, and it's called Flores Island.
Well, she moved to a different one, but she left Modesto, her family, with her family, to live there. And before she went, she showed us slides, which is the way we saw things in the 80s. And this reminds me of the picture she shared with us about the place where she was born.
Nice.
Anyway, that's all personal, but your poems are wonderful and they touch me. And I think they're, full of cosmic reality.
Thank you. I like that, cosmic reality. I'll have to write that down.
Anyone else? Okay, next up we have Sue Daly. Sue's poetry has been featured in many literary journals and anthologies. Her chapbook, A Voiced at Last, was published in 2017. Her latest book, Language of the Tea Leaves, was just released in May of 2021 by Cold River Press. And I'll put a link to that in the chat in a moment. Sue has facilitated poetry workshops at Wellsprings Women's Center and at the Hart Senior Center in Sacramento, California for several years now. She has an interest in empowering women to write and share their truth. You can visit her Facebook page, Plug into Poetry with Sue Daly. So I give you my dear friend, who I credit to rekindling my interest in poetry. She and Steve and I went to see them at the Hart Center, and I got the bug again. So take it away, Sue.
You're muted. Well, it would help if you could hear me, I suppose. I'll show you the cover of the book. It's a wonderful watercolor by Helen Plenert, and I'm just so happy with it. And I'll go ahead and start with the title poem, Language of the Tea Leaves. She sips tea slowly, captures sunshine in her hair, brushes it from her face, sees her tears in the tea leaves drifting down to the bottom of the cup, arranging themselves into intricate, delicate patterns, as if trying to convey a message of supreme importance about her future, perhaps an end to the strange misadventure threatening to overwhelm her now, sinking deeper, oblivious to captured sunshine and the mysterious language of tea leaves. This one is called Easter. A purple orchid on the table this Sunday in spring, this season of rebirth, a son's gift to his mother. Later, we speak words edged with worry and premature grief. A grandchild climbs on her lap and reason returns. We remember the day behind us when sunlight and 77 degrees brought a quiet joy, a hushed hope. Thank you. Flood. The river surged, carried us away in a flash. The sea forgave, buried our wounds beneath the blue. Our petty posturing of no consequence as hair silvers. This one I dedicated to Rick. Unspoken. Left unspoken, rhyme without reason, love for a season. Left unspoken, words made of dust, time tested trust. Left unspoken, wounds of a friend, grief without end. Love songs to Venus. She dove deep into the cosmos, surrendered herself again. Her feet found the moon path. She sang love songs to Venus. Comets from celestial cemeteries burned red hot into her back. She caught the tail of one, drifted hopelessly through heaven. When it began to die out, she loosened her grasp. Still singing, she touched ground, coming home to terra firma at last. This one's about one of our favorite places to escape to, Monterey. The mist inches inland, kisses all in its path. We absorb it by osmosis. Cypress trees drink it every spring. Thirsty roots inhale moisture, in peril without it. When autumn arrives, the trees creak and bend with the wind, dormant, dreamless. On the way to the mailbox, I watch the clouds paint the day gray, competing with a few rays of sun. Sidewalk roses beg for affection, deep reds, pale pinks, and peaches. I breathe in the heady cologne. Breaking off a hesitant pink, I press the fleshy petals to my face. Crushed velvet explodes on my cheek. A moment resplendent. Ever after. Dusk unraveled day as night approached steadily, relentlessly, cast shadows of fear, blurred by uncertainty. She did not flee this witching hour, but bloomed within its clutches, entered with no assurance of return, stumbled over 7 faces of darkness, danced through ruins, dreamt of light laced with laughter, ever after all. Okay, I actually wrote a little trio of poems. They're called Somewhere, Nowhere, and Anywhere. Somewhere. I must be somewhere. Shadows surround me, outlines of yesterday cloaked in dim light. The shadows speak. I listen for the meaning. Watery silhouettes say, I must be somewhere. Nowhere. At the edge of nowhere, a memory finds me. Your songs full of longing, lyrics tinged with despair. Today I am taken to where I arrived. Memories pass the time at the edge of nowhere. Anywhere. I could be anywhere if I let go of tomorrow. Its nonsensical notions, careless predictions. Time twists into pretzels, salts my blinded eyes that cannot see. I could be anywhere. I guess I better read one about tea. Oh, I did one. Silly me. This one I'll dedicate to Norma, one of my great copy editors, because she first introduced me to Billy Collins. Morning tea. I read Billy Collins, listen to the news. Living out his own Brexit, David Cameron packed his bags, said goodbye to the Queen, and got the hell out of London. My husband pours the tea, brings a breakfast of toast, jam, and eggs. The blackberry jam stains my hands. I rise to clean up. One can't have blackberry jam on Billy Collins. Mr. Cameron leaves a sinking ship. Having done so myself, I know the consequences can be disastrous. Like the jam, my pessimism stains everything. Who am I in this story? The prime minister or the people who decided to stay? Those who voted to exit? God knows I'm not the queen. Zero visibility. Fading into the tule fog, you don't look back for one last glance, one transitory moment to fasten your doubt to the clouds hanging low, to see a glimpse of my face, now gaunt with the grief of goodbye. Thank you. Diagnosis. Don't bother to find a diagnosis. I know what is wrong. No need to set broken bones. The heart is a muscle. Never mind sending me to a specialist. There's a long wait to see Dr. Phil. Might as well save your Novocaine. I'm already numb. I just need someone to stop the bleeding. Parched. You are here in the heat of the day. A thin film of hot air scorches the sidewalk. The pavement ripples, rises in jagged tears, in no particular pattern, on no particular afternoon. You are here, breathing inside me, following me through the long drought of day, into the cool evening, the still night. You are here within me and without me, in the desert you inhabit, the parched interior of my heart. Wild. Once you were strong, untamable and wild, half budding woman, half innocent child. You held your breath, waited for him to leave. Bubbles floated to the surface. You found your way to air. You had survived again. Tomorrow would come. You drifted slowly, safely to shore. Even the clouds. There is nothing to see here. Nothing more can be done. She is weary of sorrow. Even the clouds offer to hold her tears. The sky shudders, rolls up, and goes home. She does not notice. She sleeps, but does not dream. Saturn's rings. We stood in line on the snowy path, waiting to look through the Clark telescope. Laughing, you asked us to save your place as your friends whisked you away. You always were in perpetual motion. Mom and Dad huddled together to keep warm, gazed up at the Milky Way, discussed the time-space continuum, wondered about destiny, and why the hell we'd moved to Arizona. Breathless from running around with heaven knows who at heaven knows where, you returned to elbow in between us, just in time to see a glimpse of Saturn's rings. I've never seen anything quite like it. That moment in time, your face flushed, eyes bright with a 16-year-old's fire, your hair haloed in swirling snowflakes, infinitely lovelier than Saturn's rings. I have a couple more. uninvited. Let love spring up on statuesque peaks, snowy slopes gleaming bright in morning light. Let love flow down in cascading waterfalls, trickle in tiny rivulets through lonely deserts. Let love be unnoticed, costumed and without fanfare, when we least expect it, when we haven't invited it. Let love's downpour drench us when we think we don't need it. We'll be fine without it. That is when we need it most. Excavation. Spinning ahead, then twirling back into the spiral. Turning inside out, unearthing center, uncovering forever, the healing in the return. Gold is the sky. We found ourselves in a meadow, we who never really knew quite what we were doing. We moved with ease and grace, passed up the deserted place we once called home. We were off to see the wizard, pose our questions to the mystery man. We stood among the poppies, bowed in quiet deference to their shameless beauty. We breathed out a holy sigh, where the rivers all run silver and gold is the sky. All lovely and loving. The sun sweeps across the lawn where I sit and sip my tea. The light dances and retreats, forms intricate shapes and shadows, like pieces of the half-finished jigsaw puzzle on my kitchen table. Never shy, that clever sun plants kisses on the bushes that circle my backyard. A neighbor practices her cello, gifts me with a private concert. Sounds and sights of the morning, all lovely and loving, a prayer for the new day ahead. I wrote an epilogue in the book when we had the shelter in place order. So I'll read you a couple from that time period. Heart treasures. We take a modest walk in our favorite park. Neighbors, no longer strangers, are out running, walking the dog, or chasing after toddlers. These days, ordinary occurrences are heart treasures, tokens of our yesterdays, days we once took for granted. We are careful not to enter another space, careful not to spread what we don't know we have. Someone comes too close, a flutter in my chest. The popular slogan of the day, better 6 feet apart than 6 feet under. A woman plants flower bulbs in her front yard, her homemade mask fixed firmly in place. She says, I don't qualify for the vulnerable group. I respond, we're all members of the vulnerable club. Home again, we put on the old albums and sing along. You water the lawn. I write a note to a friend. We watch the news, see the numbers and the bodies pile up. When I worry, my son says, only first world problems, Mom. We have our own famine and disease now. Are we the second world? The fourth? Incomes, schools, and hospitals collapse like an old-fashioned accordion plays a simple, familiar song. We wash our hands, wear our masks, keep our distance, and listen for the music. I think I'll finish with 2 new poems. Stars and Splendor. And what of the future of time sifting through an hourglass? Can we catch a glimpse of hope in this rudderless boat of a world? Not a blinding vision of peace, merely a hint of serenity in the days we call our own, days we do not own at all. And what of dreamers and poets who wander in abandoned buildings, hobbling through stars and splendor, searching for a message never sent? So I've been writing a couple of poems with coffee in them now. And I've decided the title of my next book may be Language of the Coffee Beans. So this last poem I'll read is called Love and Disaster. Love and disaster. My coffee cup brims with love and disaster. The milky mix spills on the saucer, overflows and lands the first stain on the new blue carpet. Wisdom lends courage to regroup and recover, spend a day or a week away from the dreadful rubbish my mind employs on a regular basis. Now is the time to detach from its wild imaginings and strange predilections, perfect endings without new beginnings in sight. I'll rest in the messy in-between as days stretch longer, leaning into the August sun. When leaves learn to let go in September, maybe I will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Could you say a little bit about the process of being published? I know that being published is something, a dream that a lot of poets have. What was that process like for you?
Well, let's see. I started writing poetry again. I had written it in college and so on. When I retired, I started writing again. And I had a medical problem with the nerves in my arms and hands. So I looked up to see if Women's Wisdom Art was around still, and they were. And I started going there and began to experience some healing in my hands when I was doing the art. And then I went to my first poetry class there. Marie Reynolds was the teacher, wonderful teacher. So I got back into writing poems, and eventually I started submitting a few to some journals, a couple of magazines, and got published. Started reading a little bit at the Poetry Center and took some classes at college and otherwise, and just kept going. And then my friend Carol Louise Moon asked me if I wanted to do a chapbook with her. And that was about 25 poems. That was in 2017. And I said, sure. And so we did that and had a reading, had been featured in a few readings since then. And Dave Bowles of Cold River Press was a frequent person at Sacramento Poetry Center. And he would come and support a book launch of someone he'd published. He'd have all his books out. So I struck up a conversation with him several times. And one time as we were leaving, I asked him, Dave, are you interested in any new manuscripts? And he said, sure, but no chapbooks, Sue. I want a full-length collection. So there was my challenge. And I spent some time doing that, about a year. And then I sent him Language of the Tea Leaves, and he liked it. He said he'd publish it. And then he worked with me editing it, and I had a lot to learn. So he's very helpful. Norma Cahoot and Robin Odom and Joyce Odom also helped me a great deal. as Laura Gularte did, one of my mentors also. She taught at Women's Wisdom for a while. And it just happened. It took about 2.5 years from start to finish. But, and there were some, foibles, there were some mix-ups and things I thought were right. I wanted to revise again. So I learned a lot. That's about it.
Okay, great. Everybody unmute yourself, and anybody wants to ask a question or provide some comments, feedback.
Yes, Sue. I like what you're going to do next, especially the sample you gave us for your next book. I really like those 2 poems. I want to ask you this, since you're starting a new book, how long do you think it'll be before you finish the manuscript? I'm just asking in terms of your writing discipline, or if you have your daily writing discipline, if you have one.
I try to.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about 6 months from now, maybe 7 or 8, I'm going to surprise Dave again.
Wow. That's great. That's faster than I could do.
Well, they just keep coming.
Yeah.
You put those
Go with it.
To use. Put those you'll put those coffee beans to use.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Other people.
Norma, unmute yourself, dear.
Okay, it's sort of hard to tell.
We can hear you now.
No, we can't. Norma, you have to press the little microphone.
Unmute and
Yes.
We hear you now.
Is that it?
Yes.
Well, I want to echo what Lara said. I felt that your coffee bean poems show a lot of promise, and they have it. It's almost like a progression from from what you were doing, and that's wonderful, because that's the name of our effort, our poetic efforts to progress and to grow. And so I think that was reflected there. So more power to you, and take note when they come. You know what Joyce is always telling you: if you get a phrase or a line, write it down, because it's going to slip away.
Yes.
So good for you. That's great.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the organic nature of your poems. You start somewhere where all of us can be, and you follow it in a short path to an ending that just fits. It just goes in, the poem just goes right into the ending, and then it's finished. And we can take it from there. I really like that quality that you've built into your poetry writing.
Thanks.
I agree with what Arlene said, and Sue, it was such a pleasure to hear you read. I've also worked with Women's Wisdom, so I identify with you as a great group. Right. And anyway, thank you so much. The poems were just so lovely. I was especially moved by "Here in the Parched Interior of My Heart."
Yes.
That was
right.
Thank you. Okay, just to make it clear, I'm not going to title it Language of the Coffee Beans.
Okay.
Doreen had to leave, but she posted in the chat, great poetry, great poet. Enjoyed hearing you both read today. Thank you. I am inspired. Apologies for having to leave early. So we have up next Dan Williams, and if anybody else would like to read a poem, please let me know in the chat. Dan, take it away.
Thank you, Rick. Well, we've been to the Azores and we've been to Monterey. So the mountain areas and the valley areas being so hot as it is, I'd like to take us over to the Central Coast for a brief visit of I don't think it's well known, a little known state park called Point Lobos State Park, a little bit south of Carmel, a little bit north of Big Sur. This is called the Elements of Lobos. The quiet tide listens to its surf. Further out, gray whales breach silver water. Faint spouts hang ghostly for a moment. Seabirds float on pale wings, tinted apricot by a newly risen sun. If you were to take up a brush, Point Lobos would be green and umber, almost an island surrounded by its deep azure, and then to the horizon paling out with white to light mists. Seaside painted cup, a sear of fluorescence across the dunes, its apricot melding into gold, fading into scarlet. All that's needed to light its fire, the mellow candle glow of a mid-sized star, 93 million miles away. Each blade of rattlesnake grass, a tiny dry bell on a graceful stem, platinum with dew. Thousands of simple beauties missed by humanity's fast drive-bys on Route 1. I prefer to think of every element of Lobos being contained in the gorgeous alto voice of a lovely woman gowned in wind-whipped satin. Even the otter's bark, the cries of mirrors, all made tonal qualities of her lovely madrigal. She has watched Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo's ship float by, then Francis Drake with brass telescope looking lost. She has heard the ruffian voices of Richard Henry Dana, his crew of cattle skinners. She has sung her lovely songs, nevertheless. A place of mystery and beauty, where Sterling and Jeffers in London have played dressed in scarlet and golden fustian, carousing and drinking the spiced wine of Lobos, then dancing as grotesques in homespun fates. This, the sea house of jellyfish, sea lions, wild iris, painted cups and poets. Nevertheless, her truest lovers are those who walk here content to listen with their entire being, to be lost in wind caves and pine scent, blowing to the east. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. That's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Catherine, go ahead and unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself, Catherine. Catherine, you need to unmute yourself.
Got it. You got it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is what I wrote recently. It's called Soulmates. What a wonderful gift is a true kindred soul. Someone who takes you from broken to whole, who steps in to save you from anguish and fears, joins you in laughter, wipes away tears. Some people find one quite early in life and spend many decades as husband and wife. Many find closeness with father or mother, or grandma or grandpa, sister or brother. Perhaps they would meet while pursuing careers and follow a shared goal for most of their years. The spiritual search for a being above and unite with a source of an all-giving love.
Thank you, Catherine. Anyone else?
Sure.
Arlene.
Okay, am I muted? No,
Oh, you're
okay.
fine.
This one is called Inadvertent Climate Modification, or the Great California Valley, or Loss of Place, or Demise of Sentient Life on a Toxic World, or 4 o'clock afternoon sun strikes, scars skin, irradiates tender tissue to the bone, bakes the marrow, sweat channels, shines, slides, drips, breath pants through dry, cracked lips, gelled tongue words emerge, sigh into dry and evaporate. Hot wind rises in gusts, boiling dust, thoughts, words, deeds, coated with toiling immobility as forest and grasslands flame, flare on the ridges and smoke chokes. The day turns like a sonnet. A sullen sun swells, adolescent, disgruntled, forced to bed at curfew, slams the door against cool wisps of delta breeze, wavers in the heated air. Lurid glow hangs in night's corners, awaiting a smoldering dawn. And there's an epigram here. The original meaning of the word curfew was to cover the fire. English word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu. The town bell was rung as a signal to extinguish fires and candles, preventing disastrous home fires. That's it. I like the hearts, Allegra.
I have one called Late Night Call, and it was inspired by the John Prine's song Summer's End. His aching heart pours into a phone. His pain imparts, trapped in a room alone. A sailor in distress, lost in a vodka sea, starved for a caress, beloved son to me. In the dark of the night, a Mayday sent home. His burdens shared, turn light, words comfort like a poem. That call from 6 years ago, the card he wrote with care. Prine's song brought me tears. Dad, you were always there. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Sue. Anybody else have a poem to share?
I'll go.
Okay.
You can hear me, right? It's working? Okay. Invisible bug kills. No flights out. Wash your hands. Stay indoors. Close all shops. Stay alone. Get a check. Be alert. More fake news of anti-life. Hold your heart in your hand. Hug yourself. You are your own love.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I've got one.
Okay. Thank you, Allegra. Go ahead.
Okay, this is a villanelle. Where you belong in rhythmic song. May you go where you belong, where dancing feet do not slip, sensate in their rhythmic song. Even when a dream seems gone, salvation waits in singing yips as you go where you belong. Assuage the tongue that longs for chosen words and open lips, sensate in releasing song. forgotten oaths of right and wrong, orders from the dark. Just skip as you go where you belong. There is a place deep and strong, living green of earth equips, sensate in the ripening song. Wisdom words may rise and dip, the body knows another trip. There is a place where you belong, sensate in a rhythmic song.
Thank you, Allegra. I was sort of juggling my cat there for a moment. Anyone else?
I've got one.
Okay. Hi, Valerie.
Hi. It's called Bridge to the Other Side. See the moon, stars that shine, a sky blush at dawn. See the new spring, color bright, green shoots, celebrate life. A moment in space and time, a pebble of sand on the beach of eternity, in current and tide, morning to night. We are but fleeting travelers, one soul, one life.
Thank you, Valerie.
Could I ask Valerie if you could, if it's okay with everybody, if you could read that again with your mouth a little closer to the microphone? I could understand very little of it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here, that's perfect what you're saying right now.
I am legally blind, and so I have to read with the paper in between my mouth and the microphone.
Okay.
But I'll try reading a little bit louder. Would that help?
That would. Thank you.
Let's give that a try. Okay, one more time. Bridge to the other side. See the moon, stars that shine, a sky blush at dawn. See the new spring, colors bright, green shoots, celebrate life. A moment in space and time, a pebble of sand on the beach of eternity. In current and tide, morning to night, we are but fleeting travelers, one soul, one life.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Did you hear that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share? We already mentioned the one that's coming up in Diamond Springs on Saturday. Any other events that people would like to publicize, talk about?
Tuesday night. I think it's advertised on the poet. Whoops.
Tuesday night?
Wait a minute. Where am I? Here we go. Tuesday night. It's advertised, I think, on the Poetry Center website.
Usually they're Monday night. Let me double check here.
No, there's a Tuesday night. Yeah.
Are you thinking of the
Daniel?
Yeah, the critique group meets right. Tuesday night at 7:30 usually.
Right. You have to call, what am I trying to say? Email in ahead of time, but it's a great group.
I agree.
And Poetry at the Heart Center every Tuesday is back now.
Are they at the Heart Center?
Yeah, Tuesdays from 2 to 3:30.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and again, go ahead and register at the desk with an email or a phone call first.
Thank you.
Great.
And I'm also putting the link for tomorrow for Monday night for the Poetry Center. what they call
Rick, you
social
said,
distance first.
Rick, you said,
Go ahead.
Rick, you said something about a book that's going to be out regarding global warming.
Well, there's
Is that
the poetry reading that is going to take place in Diamond Springs this next Saturday at 2 o'clock. The theme will be on global warming. And I did see a book cover. Lara, why don't you talk about that? Are these selections from published?
Yeah,
books?
I can tell you about the book. The reading will be from a few contributors of California Fire and Water. It's a climate crisis anthology, which was edited by Molly Fisk. If you know Molly Fisk, she's in Nevada City and was the poet laureate there at Nevada County. And she produced this book with many California poets and even children at various schools. It's a very good anthology. And so I think that might have been what you saw.
I'll put a copy of the picture of the book in the chat here.
That would be great.
Let's see, let me try it a different way. Can't seem to copy and paste. Let's see. Try to do it this way. Give me a second. Yeah, it doesn't give me the option to upload it from my hard disk.
Rick, I can resend it. Maybe if I resend it and you can just send it by email to everyone somehow, or
I'd be glad to do that. I have a copy of it in front of me. I just can't seem to copy the image and then paste it into the chat. One more time, huh? Just won't do it. Okay, so I will send out an email for that. So look forward. Anyone else? Yeah, Brenda. Unmute Brenda.
I'm just saying goodbye. I'm just saying goodbye. Bye.
Me too. Thank you all. And thank you, ladies, for poetry.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Next question should be, what